The World Championship title has been an elusive dream for 24-year-old Colin McPhillips, so it was no surprise that he went out hard today when he finally made the longboard finals of the Oxbow Championships. The move paid off for the Californian, easily edging out his opponent, Brazilian Marcelo Freitas, in a clean 1 metre swell.
That was my strategy. I didn't want to give any chance at all. I wanted to start off with the first wave and keep the lead the whole time, and I did, and that's what I was pretty much trying to do in all my heats. And it worked.
The newly crowned champ collected $10,000 for his efforts, but he says the ultimate crowning glory would come in the form of an official world tour for the longboard event. Still, he says today's world title is the end of a 7-year dream.
It'll be a title that I'll get to have the rest of my life, so it's nice. I'm happy.
While no Australians made the finals, the North Coast's Beau Young was one who put in a memorable performance. And while the Aussies didn't have much to show for their efforts, there was some satisfaction when they topped the events tally. Helen Kapalos, NBN News.
The George Hotel on the corner of Hunter and Watt Streets was demolished after the earthquake 10 years ago. In its place today stands one of a number of high-rise apartment buildings which have been popping up in Newcastle city centre over the past 12 months. Real estate agents say the flood of units is in response to demand for inner-city living, especially from young professionals and retirees.
A lot of sales, and in my position as property manager, we've had a lot of inquiries for tenancies of these particular buildings. It's been incredible.
According to one real estate agent, Newcastle's harbour and foreshore are a major draw card, offering both a convenient and attractive lifestyle at prices much lower than Sydney and Melbourne.
To be able to live in something like this in Sydney, it's out of most people's price range.
Rental prices range from $240 up to $450 a week, and to buy, investors are looking at parting with anything between $200,000 to $500,000. However, before anyone rushes out to buy an inner-city unit, financial advisors are urging caution.
Our foreshore and the areas where these properties are being developed certainly add a great deal to your lifestyle, and I guess that's obviously an attraction. From an investment point of view, though, you need to consider a whole host of different issues.
Amanda Bolger, NBN News.
The draft koala management plan is still a long way from being passed. Councillors last night voted to extend the public exhibition period for a further 3 months. But it seems its effects are already being felt. Developer Tom Ford claims proposed restrictions in the draft koala plan have been unfairly included in his draft development application.
I believe that the imposition of the koala management plan, which hasn't even been adopted on this land, is grossly unfair.
They should not be using the draft koala management plan to determine anything at the moment.
The conditions require residents buying one of the 12 affected blocks in the Madawi subdivision to contain their dogs within a secure compound on the property, construct koala-friendly fencing incorporating a 200mm gap at the bottom, and to provide a length of rope dangling into the pool if there is one. Mr. Ford claims he's then required to police the conditions once the blocks are sold.
I don't think I've got the authority to do that, and I certainly wouldn't like to meet 12 irate owners who are telling me, that they're not going to comply. What will I do then?
Council claims these restrictions are standard ways to ensure koalas are protected.
Regardless of the koala plan of management, there is a legal obligation on the developer to come up with some proposals for how that development can proceed without impacting on the koalas.
The subdivision proposal goes before Council in December for approval. Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
Generations of romper room doobies have tuned in to Miss Kim since 1977 to dance, sing along or even just hope she saw them watching at home. Today, the final taping of the program, which has since become the Big Dog and Friends show. 30,000 children have been touched by the magic of Miss Kim, who is one of the longest-serving children's TV hosts in the world. And her secret is simple.
I'm just a mum. That's it. I'm just a mum.
Romper Room began in 1966. Miss Anne and Miss Lynn were among the hosts. The days of the doobies have left special memories for everyone.
It's just like, I guess in many respects, just like having your own family, and because you've got to have a good sense of humour, and there's lots of laughs.
I just want to say thank you all. I have been very lucky and I've had a great 23 years. Thank you all very much.
The polyclinic concept was born out of a need to cater for a growing number of people moving into the city centre. Both Toronto and Nelson Bay have a polyclinic, and according to Hunter Health CEO Catherine McGrath, they are both proving a major success in dealing with day-to-day health needs of local residents, from diabetes advice to dentistry.
It's also friendlier. It's your neighbourhood health service, and our intent now is to get as much as possible away from the big hospitals and out into the community where the people are, so that it's close to home.
The inner city polyclinic is part of a package proposal associated with the closure of the Royal. Other proposals include redeveloping the Mater Hospital, a bone and joint institute at the John Hunter Hospital, and the refurbishment of Belmont Hospital.
It is the package that has to be agreed to, and if we don't think that that package is the right one, then the board will need, and the board and the Hunter Health will need to go back to the drawing board.
A preferred site on honeysuckle land has been identified, but Ms McGrath says it will be up to the community to give the plan the go-ahead. Amanda Bolger, NBN News.
If there's such a thing as upmarket student living, the new University Lodge is it. The 96-room centre will be built next to the existing accommodation facility of Edwards Hall and is designed for those with slightly bigger budgets.
They're fairly upmarket rooms. They're air-conditioned, hardwired for computers, 2 computers, telephone, air-conditioned, ensuite. They're really well provided for.
University Lodge will be a mix of self and provided catering and feature various environmentally friendly mod cons. The facility will also take the number of on-campus accommodation rooms to more than 1,000, further helping the uni to cope with demand.
We're about to put the project out to tender. Assuming tenders come back within budget, we'll be starting building early in the new year.
Meanwhile, the Australian Research Council has awarded the university $3.3 million in federal grants over the next 3 years. The money will be put towards a variety of research projects and used mainly for hiring more people. Colin Baldwin, NBN News.
Up there, Dom.
Set, go. Now we have to... Number 4.
BHP has grand plans for an international container terminal, but first the former steelmaking giant must be dismantled. A 7-member committee representing council, the state government and BHP has been set up to fast-track the demolition. Demolition will take up to 12 months. However, with pockets of contaminated land, the site is not expected to be ready for 2 years. All heritage buildings will be preserved. Mayor John Tate is keen to see the day when the steelworks doesn't dominate the Newcastle skyline.
I'm looking forward to the day when people coming to Newcastle for the first time drive across the top of the hill at Charlestown and Highfields and look to the north and see that there's not an industrial skyline.
Blake Doyle, NBN News. Police Commissioner Peter Ryan was a popular figure at the university's 1999 Newcastle lecture, hot on the heels of his announcement of extra police for the Hunter. From December, there'll be 30 more police of varying rank placed in stations on a needs basis. That will free up more experienced officers to work in the state's first flying squad.
They'll be deployed by the region commanders and the local area commanders to those areas in the region which require a fast police response.
The officers will be used in crime hotspots and for major public order problems and searches.
Police can be freed up from their station duties and get out and be visible. Now, I think that's a fundamental thing that needs to happen.
But while boosting police resources, the Commissioner has also stressed that the community is just as important in crime prevention.
The community have a very strong role to play much earlier on in making sure that children particularly are more protected and given guidance.
It's believed a further 30 officers will be deployed in the Hunter before April next year. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
Down these steps here, guys. Fun run. Hey, Sarah, go, Hayley. Yeah. Go on, yeah.
I want to be.
Oh, yeah? Wish someone had bought me.
The blaze broke out in the Mitre 10 hardware store in Kelly Street just after 2:30 this morning. With flames taking hold quickly, fire brigades had to plan their attack.
We thought we'd better drive around the side and we could see all the flames coming out of the side of the building, and we worked our way right around the back of the building and set up a hydrant and got to work with the fire engine and hoses.
8 brigades from as far afield as Newcastle and Murrundi fought the outbreak that took 3 hours to control. The twisted iron and steel shows the ferocity of the blaze, and locals are amazed that adjoining businesses weren't destroyed as well. The newsagent and butcher shop was saved but damaged by smoke and water. The blaze is a setback for the local community.
I think so, because there are a lot of people employed between the news agency and Mitre 10, and other families involved too. Very unfortunate.
The cause of the outbreak is yet to be determined. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
With only half a metre swell at Wombrel this morning, conditions were trying for the second last event on the Central Coast's surfing circuit. But the day still managed to pull in some of the coast's top surfers.
We have the under-18 world champion in Adrian Buchan, as well as the 97 Pro Junior winner of Drew Courtney.
The charity day doesn't earn the surfers big dollars or trophies. It's all done for prestige and to raise money for a worthy cause, the Arrow Foundation.
So far in the history of the event, we've raised $32,500 plus.
It's the largest surfing event on the coast and is held in memory of Foresters Beach surfer Dave Ward, who passed away 10 years ago with leukaemia. And for those wondering just who Dave Ward was 10 years ago...
He was a bloke who went out of his way for the younger people on the Central Coast. He'd pick them up and take them surfing. He's a very generous and happy-going bloke.
Surfing continues tomorrow and wraps up at around 3 o'clock. Adam Harper, NBN News. More than 200 charity fundraisers gathered at Gosford Showground today, after returning from their 3,000-kilometre journey.
We certainly had a lot of fun. We've covered 3,200 Ks in the last 8 days.
The event saw the colourful cars start out in Gilgandra on Saturday and pull into Gosford at lunchtime today, after some rugged travelling and a host of obstacles.
Probably overcoming all the mud and the slop and the gale force winds and torrential rain that we had over the first couple of days.
But it was for a worthy cause, and so far has managed to raise over $600,000 for camp quality.
When you see the faces, those happy smiling faces of those kids at the camps, they're receiving treatment that's as good if not better than they'll get in hospital.
Organisers say this year has been the most successful in the event's 8-year history. Next year it's hoped that similar support will be given to the cause. Adam Harper, NBN News.
The Falcons had the breakers on the ropes right from the start. Both sides had to contend with a slippery pitch. Some Gippsland theatrics saw the first yellow card handed out to Newcastle's Shane Price. A Falcons penalty kick failed to find the net, but they regrouped minutes later. A kick from midfield headed in by defender Manny Gotis. Approaching the break, the visitors looked determined but couldn't capitalise on their chances. The second half saw the ref unleash a frenzy of whistleblowing and yellow cards. In the space of a few minutes, Gippsland had been served with 3 yellow cards, Newcastle 2, both Andy Harper and Travis Dodd feeling the heat. While the penalty count grew, the scoreline stayed the same. Falcons coach Jeff Hopkins paid tribute to his opposition.
We knew we were in for a hard game. They're a very well organised side and they make things very difficult for you.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
A funny man with a serious message. But all those at a Yes Vote rally at Crowders Bay Park agreed the future of an Australian republic is no laughing matter.
We had very close ties to Britain, we had a great trading arrangement, but all that finished about 1970.
With 6 days until the historic vote, a huge proportion of the electorate remains undecided. Yes campaigners realise it's those voters who hold the fate of the republic in their hands.
I think there's about 25% out there who haven't made up their mind. If they really consider the issues, they would see that it's time to move on, time for Australia to become a truly independent republic.
With time fast running out, these Yes campaigners will have their work cut out before next Saturday. Adam Harper, NBN News. After a ceremony at the Holy Apostles Church in Hamilton, a small procession wound its way through rural fire service tankers, blessing them in the hope that holy water will shield them from the flames.
This is the first step, and a very important step to us, to expand our volunteer base and also to expand our service into the ethnic community.
The blessing from the Greek rector also marks the fire service's new Living in Harmony initiative, which aims to see the service work with people from all walks of life.
The aim of today is to celebrate Living in Harmony, which is a federal government initiative to encourage ethnic communities to participate in volunteer movements such as the New South Wales Rural Fire Service.
And at the end of the ceremony, the Rural Fire Service joined the Greek community in celebrating their National Day. It's the first time the fire service has joined in on the Greek tradition, but hope to get more involved with other ethnic organisations in the future.
The Minister spoke out today in response to media speculation over the weekend about a licence fee. Mr Obeid said such a scheme would not be introduced unless there was significant support among anglers, and that doesn't seem likely.
It's going to hurt a lot of people, isn't it? I mean, $25 for a pension is a lot of money to fork out to come out here and waste a bit of time, isn't it?
Proprietor of the West End Sports and Tackle Shop, Barry Clark, is another who is opposed to the idea of licences.
Now, there's very little support for a saltwater licence, and in fact, if you listen to some of the people who are supporting it, they represent a very small part of the entire community.
Fisheries Minister Obeid said the government will canvass the views of anglers groups at a summit next month. But Mr Clark says anglers shouldn't be slugged with another tax.
If New South Wales Fishery had really managed the fishery well, we wouldn't be in the situation that we are now, looking at the general community having to support the buyout of commercial operators and improve the quality of the fishery itself.
Mr Obeid also said today that following the December summit, he would consider releasing a discussion paper for public comment.
When Hunter Health invited community input into the future of healthcare, it was taken up enthusiastically. In just a few weeks, the campaign has netted more than 300 responses. And while most are supportive, it seems the new model has also raised some questions.
I think people are concerned that there's not going to be a loss of service, and there needs to be these sorts of caveats, that there's no loss of service, there's no loss of jobs, and that this is the best value that we can get for the very scarce health dollar.
Hunter Health's 10-year plan will almost certainly involve the sale and relocation of the Royal Newcastle Hospital. Other suggestions put up for a preferred model of health include building a new Mater Hospital and the upgrading of Belmont Hospital. The committee also maintains new ideas will be taken on.
It's not a decision that can work without the community wanting it to work. If they don't want it to work, then it stays virtually the way it is.
Community consultation will continue until the end of the year. A recommendation will then be put forward to the board. Helen Kapalos, NBN News. Appropriately, the former Telecom Customer Centre was today chosen as the premises for the Roads and Traffic Authority's new call centre. But at most, the move will only see around 40 local jobs created out of a possible 150 when the facility relocates from Sydney next April. Despite those plans, however, the state government remains insistent it's all part of a decentralisation strategy to create more regional jobs.
Well, it shows a government fair income about moving jobs into regional centres that are capable of being moved. Not all government jobs can be, you have to be sensible about it.
Mr Scully also took time out to launch a new statue celebrating 200 years of commercial shipping operations. Inspired by traditional figureheads on early sailing vessels, Destiny was sculpted by local artist Julie Squires to welcome ships to the port. But the $100,000 piece of work is a less than welcoming sight for the Maritime Union, who've accused the Port Authority of wasting valuable resources.
It's a modest amount of money that is an appropriate recognition for all of the people of Newcastle, and I think you should see it in its context relative to an industrial dispute that come and go.
Helen Kapalos, NBN News.
For Tyrone Mason Powell, memories and photos are all that remain of his service in East Timor. As part of the crew of the HMAS Success, Tyrone spent a tense 41 days in the troubled territory.
Yeah, it was very tense. Everyone, like I said, didn't know what to expect. Even the Army ashore didn't know what to expect. It was about a week before everything sort of worked itself out.
As part of his work as a marine technician, Tyrone spent a good deal of time helping to repair and rewire ruined buildings, burnt to the ground by militia forces.
Everything was just destroyed. Everything was burnt. Switchboards, all the plumbing was ripped up. Everything was just destroyed. Absolutely nothing left standing.
One highlight for the 20-year-old was travelling high into the mountains to visit the Philantal rebel forces. But meeting the East Timorese people is perhaps the experience he'll always remember most.
Everyone was smiling, happy to see you, saying hello. It was out of this world for them. We're giving them food, everything like that. They loved it.
But for his mum, she's just glad her son's home safe and sound, for now at least.
It's absolutely wonderful. It was great. When he rang me on Saturday and said that he's on his way home, I just thought, this is it.
Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
The Kids Alive Do the Five program has been running north of the border for years. Now Laurie Lawrence has brought it to New South Wales, the message summed up through verse.
Fence the pool, shut the gate. Teach your kids to swim, it's great. Supervise, watch your mate and learn how to resuscitate.
Today the coach was joined by past swimming pupil Angela Harris and her 5-week-old daughter Georgina to demonstrate just how early parents can familiarise their children with water. But the statistics are far from child's play. In New South Wales last year, 6 preschoolers drowned in the bath, the state's annual total of 20 being the worst in the country. Laurie just hopes the Kids Alive program will be as successful here as in Queensland.
We took the drownings from 27 to 1 backyard pool death with the program, stopped the program, up it went. Started the program, down to 10. So I've really got a tiger by the tail. And I know it works, and that's why we want to go into New South Wales and preach the message in here. Kids Alive, do the 5.
The Hunter may be several hundred kilometres from the racetrack at Flemington, but the activities off the field proved just as engaging. The annual custom once again drawing all walks of life into the betting ring. As usual, publicans all over had their hands full, some punters still coherent enough to make sense of the annual tradition.
It's one day of the year that we love to celebrate. It's good.
Good social event. A lot of people get out and get into it.
It's just a day to get together and get out and have some fun.
I think in the future, when we become a republic, this will be a complete holiday.
At the Newcastle Workers Club, it may have been a more subdued affair, but it was just as colourful, dancers both on and off the stage taking to the floor. The fashion of the day was also on parade, the varied displays now proving to be an integral part of the occasion. But if our poll across the region shed any light on how local punters fared, there was probably more partying than winning going on.
Tie the knot.
What's his name? Travel Man.
Still, at 3:20, the reaction was just as explosive, all eyes glued on the box. And the race that stops a nation had no trouble halting the streets of Newcastle. The central business district left deserted for the big event.